Hi, good afternoon. Let me adjust this thing down a little bit if I can. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. I think that's better. Um, just a word, you can see I dressed for success. Actually, I'm a walking advertisement for Asbury Theological Seminary if you'd like to go there. I'm still paying my student loan off, and I'm 71 years old, but that's another story. I just wanted to share with you just a short word that is really a short word, but it's really necessary. It's really essential that you get this, that you understand this. So, this is a course in New Testament. You took it and you thought you probably would know at least a lot of what goes on here and things like that, and you will, and you do. But I wanted to make a point of letting you know that we'll be looking at the New Testament differently than you've ever looked at the New Testament before, most likely, unless you've been in another academic course that looks at some part of the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament, particular book of the Bible, Mark, Matthew, whatever. And here's the difference. And here's the difference. Most all of you have been to Sunday school. You've heard Sunday school teachers teach out of a quarterly or whatever. You've been to church services. Old preacher Smelfungus has stood up front and he's preached about Romans 8 or whatever. And that's the experience. And then you've read the New Testament. You've read the Bible. You may have read other things about the Bible that have been written by certain people, certain books, things like that. And all that's good, and I understand that, and trust me, I've done the same thing. I grew up in church. I was in church from almost from the get-go, and have been a Christian now for over 50 years. So I know where you're coming. But this course is different, and it's going to look at things a bit differently. We're not going to prove. I'm going to try to prove that what you already believe is true. We're just going to accept your beliefs for what they are. Not going to try to infringe on them. Not going to try to change you. Not going to try to convert you. Not going to try to make you a United Methodist or anything like that. So we're not about the business of being a Sunday school. Sunday school has its place, and it's a very good place. Church has its place, and it's a very good place. Wednesday night Bible studies they've got a good place. Bible study groups, good place. This is not that. This is different. Now, that doesn't mean it's not, that doesn't mean, how would I say this? That doesn't mean that it's irreligious or that it just doesn't, that doesn't mean that I'm going to come from, well, now here's what you believe, but it's wrong, and this is what you should believe, and science tells us this, and so therefore you need to change your faith. None of that. But what it will do, mercy, I'm taking longer to do this than I thought it would. What it intends to do is to offer you a deeper study of the scripture than you've ever had. And it hopes to offer you a method of studying the scriptures that will go with you for the remainder of your lives. That's the reason I had you buy the same Bible that will be, everybody's got the same Bible, Oxford Annotated Bible with Apocrypha, fifth edition, I believe. They all got the same. That is, as far as I'm concerned, that is the very best academic study Bible, bar none. It's got annotations in it, but the annotations are not like Baptist theologically based, or they're not Catholic theologically based, or they're not whatever. It's just plain old, this is what it is, factually based, historically based. So I want you to know that when we study the scriptures and we're studying books, you won't hear me You won't hear me try to drive home a point, as I would for the 30 years that I was in pastoral ministry, that Jesus saves, and that by grace ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves is a gift of God, not of works, leave me. You won't hear me say things like that. What you'll hear me talk about is, and in the first chapter or two, the word criticism will come up quite a bit. Now, criticism does not mean that we're criticizing the Bible. The Bible is not true and it's not there. Doesn't mean that at all. Criticism is just close analytical study. So when you have historical criticism, that is theologians like me who have put in pretty well a lifetime of doing this. Historical criticism would be that there are specialists. It's like if you go to a doctor, you go to a general practitioner, he says, well, I'm not sure what you got, but I'm going to see, you got some pain right up in under your left shoulder blade. I'm going to refer you to old Dr. Pequot down here, and he's a specialist. He's a specialist now. He's going to take care of that. Can't take care of this, but he can take care of that. Well, theology has specialists. Bible study has specialists. People who have given their lives to not only to theology, not only to the Bible, but to a particular thing about the Bible. And I use the word historical criticism. These are people who have studied the history of how we got the New Testament text. And what they don't know about that is, well, I'm sure they don't. There's things they don't know about it, but it's more than most people do. There's a redactional criticism. That's because the Bible you have, the New Testament you have, came from a long and circuitous route, and was not the New Testament you have wasn't even known about, wasn't created. It was created basically at the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century, the 4th blessed century. So before that, there were just little letters or documents or whatever floating around, read in different churches, but nothing like a New Testament. That just wasn't there until almost, well, over 300 years after Jesus died and rose again. So redactional criticism, cultural criticism, historical criticism, literary criticism, on and on and on. Now, these are different subgroups, subtopics that of particular study that certain individuals have chosen to study, make a study of. And criticism, again, is not, they're not going to be, well, we criticize, but it's just that it's analytical study. That's what it is. Criticism is an acute, stringent, rigorous academic study. It means you put your whole mind and focus to it for all your life of these areas of the New Testament. Textual criticism, getting back to the very text. Did you know this? Did you know we do not have one, what we call autograph, one original text of the New Testament work? We don't have one. What we have are copies of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies. And textual critics try to get back to the very earliest copy or the very earliest text that we can find. And that's what we want to start with. We don't want to start with something out here. We want to start with, so that's what they give their lives to, is just finding the earliest possible text that we can find in our study of the New Testament. So New Testament has had a long, the birth of the New Testament was 300 years long. Started out in oral traditions. People just telling the story, getting together in a little circle in a home and say, you know, what I remember Paul saying, he didn't say this to me, but he said this to a group, and then one in the group told it to me, and I'm telling it now to you, that there was a day when he was traveling to Damascus, and on that, and they tell that story over and over and over, and it goes to another home, and another home, and another home, and another town, telling the stories orally, because people were poor, they couldn't read or write. Well, eventually people started to write those things down. And I'm sorry to tell you that there's very little credible evidence that there was a person named Matthew who wrote Matthew. It's just not there. There's a greater evidence that a person named Luke wrote Luke Acts, two parts of one work. But anyway, we'll go into that later. But a lot of what you've come to learn, know, and believe about the New Testament is probably a little bit sketchy. Basically, because people have just told what people have told them. They preach what was preached to them when they were little. They transferred it on, and that next generation will transfer it on and on and on, without ever bothering really to do an analytical study of the New Testament. And that's what you're here to do this semester. I hope all that made sense. I tell you what I wish you'd do if you hear this, when you watch this. Would you email me and let me know what you think about this and any questions you might have? That would help me to know where you're coming from. It help me know what I have to do to help you as best I can in this course. So long, adios, whatever other language that you speak. I can speak Greek and Hebrew, but I don't. We had to learn Greek and Hebrew and Latin in seminary because the New Testament was written in Greek. And Jesus didn't even speak Greek. Jesus spoke Aramaic, a Syrian language, a Syrian sort of a offshoot of Hebrew mixed in with some other things. But the New Testament was written in Greek. So if you want to read the New Testament in seminary, you just have to know how to read Greek. So that's what you do. And then Hebrew, to learn the Old Testament, you have to know how to read Hebrew. And then Latin, because for the last 2,000 years, most of what the church has talked about, they've talked about it in Latin. So if you want to know anything about Greek or Hebrew or Latin, I'm your guy. Now, if you want to know something about Russian or German, you probably need to check with somebody else.